Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of League Chat with the Stat. Thank you for joining me again on the grand final episode of League Chat with the Stat. You know who it is, it's your man Stat. And let me just start this episode with a bit of a thank you. Now, not sure if many of you are aware, but we do get listeners from not just across Australia, but all over the world as well. So it's been a overwhelming experience thus far. And I wanted to thank those that have been tuning in from the following places, actually. So I get a good amount of listeners over in Virginia, in Clichy, L'Île-de-France, in Ashburn, Virginia, Boardman, Oregon, Northern Shores in Michigan, Los Angeles, California, Columbus, Ohio, Huntington Beach in California, Philadelphia in Pennsylvania, and St. Thomas in Ontario. That's over in Canada. And I also get listeners over in Moscow in Russia and Bremen in Germany. So just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for tuning in, week out, to the number one podcast happening right now in League Chat with the Stat. Now, I do want to know who you guys are and what your thoughts are on rugby league and on the podcast. Please send through an email to leaguechatwiththestat@gmail.com. Leaguechatwiththestat, all one word, all lowercase, @gmail.com. We'd love to know a bit about yourselves as fans of rugby league. If you have any questions, I can assist you in any way. If you just want to drop a comment on any feedback, good or bad, please send through an email. We'd love to hear from you guys that are overseas. Now, just wanted to say, as I said, just a little thank you to those that tune in every week, even those across Australia, from those in Sydney, Canberra, Melbourne, in Perth and Adelaide. Just want to say a massive thank you for your support this year. And obviously, we've had a few teething issues over the year. We're only just getting started, but I do want to thank you guys for your support. Now, we want to discuss what happened in the preliminary final. First game was the Storm 30 defeating the Canberra Raiders 10. And you could just tell that the week off did benefit the Melbourne Storm. Now, I will be honest, I did not expect the result to go the way it did. I did not expect Canberra to concede 3 tries in 5 minutes. I did not expect Canberra to not be able to rebound from that 25-minute first half performance. Now, but you should just see how Melbourne Storm played. If you missed it, go check out the highlights. It was a thing of beauty. I gotta say, it was just amazing to watch. Now, obviously, it didn't really benefit the Raiders. Elliot Whitehead making that mistake just over halfway, but then conceding a penalty and then getting that try to Jesse Bromwich. But it was those three tries in that 5-minute period that was just, as I said, it was just amazing to watch. I was left in awe. But that last try I thought was very soft from Canberra, the one they conceded with Vunivalu. Wasn't a typical Raiders performance. Now, as I said, that 20-25 minutes that the Storm carved them up, Raiders had no answer for it. Too many errors, and I feel like it was the most unlike Canberra Raiders performance we've seen in a good 3 years. Now, this Canberra Raiders game that I watched, this side, it looked like a team that would have played back in 2006, 2007 when they were pretty average and didn't have much going for them. But look, they tried to recover from that fast start. They had a bit of momentum at different parts of the game, but it wasn't enough. Melbourne shut them out in that first half, leading 24 points to 6. And look, as I said, they played phenomenal, the Melbourne Storm. I actually wrote them off, and I thought Canberra would be the ones to surprise them, but they just click into another gear. Just shows how amazing Cameron Smith and Craig Bellamy truly are, and the organisation of the Melbourne Storm being in 5 grand finals over the last 10 years. But I think one highlight that I just want to talk about was Cameron Smith. Now, Nick Kotrick made a break down the right-hand touchline, and he put in a kick over the top, trying to get over Papenhausen. Now, the bounce favoured Kotrick more than it favoured Melbourne Storm. However, who was there to take that tackle? Cameron Smith. Not only did he save that try, but he also benefited the Melbourne Storm in giving Canberra Raiders an error. And it was from Nick Kotrick, who didn't have the greatest of nights in the lime green, and being his last one before he heads to the Bulldogs next year. It was a very tough performance from him, but Cameron Smith backing it up. Now, you obviously think that Nick Kotrick is a lot faster and a lot more agile than Cameron Smith, but in the many years of seeing Cameron Smith play, that had to be one of my highlights, especially in defence, especially running it back from 50 metres to be able to cover the tackle, to save the try and concede the error. I thought that was brilliant. I actually thought it was fantastic. Now, look, we've got to do farewell John Bateman in his last game for the Green Machine. Who'll be heading back to Wigan on a 4-year contract to be closer to his family. So just want to say, John, thank you for your time in the NRL. It was a pleasure to have watched you play and get an insight into the type of man that you are. And all the best back at Wigan. And would hopefully love to see you back in the NRL at some stage in the future. But while the game was obviously dominated by the backs, Ryan Papenhausen had a blast. 17 runs, 165 metres, a try assist, and 3 tackle breaks from the man himself. And I thought Jerome Hughes, mate, just had a ball on the string the whole game. 2 try assists, 2 line break assists, 2 tackle breaks. But I thought his kicking game especially was on song. I thought it was phenomenal. Really dominated that area, Jerome Hughes, and he's obviously developed his game over the course of the last few years at halfback. Coming from the Titans, he was playing fullback and didn't really know where he would find himself. But obviously Craig Bellamy knows how to get the best out of people like him. Even someone like Bronco Lee, who in the beginning of the year wasn't even signed to the NRL. Just phenomenal stories. Just the influence that Craig Bellamy has on this side is second to none. And I'm sure that the players will be enjoying every minute they can with Craig Bellamy before he finishes coaching in 2021. But look, as I said, the backs dominated for the Storm. Obviously, with Vunivalu and Addo Carr playing phenomenal performances as well. And John Bateman was a standout for me for Canberra. 15 runs, 128 metres, 2 tackle breaks, an offload, and 33 tackles in his last game in the lime green. Now, in the second game, it'll be the Panthers 20 defeating the Rabbitohs 16. It was an unbelievable game to watch. Wonderful game of rugby league to witness. There were a lot of errors from both sides, but I just wanted to credit the Rabbitohs. They were hampered with a lot of injuries. Now, Campbell Graham missed the game day before kickoff due to that groin strain he's been carrying for the last 4 weeks. And with Jed Cartwright leaving, ironically, the Panthers and coming to a side like the South Sydney Rabbitohs, he had to play out of position in playing centres. And I thought he did relatively okay, especially having that last-minute call-up to the centres. But look, you've got to give credit where credit's due. The Rabbitohs did lose a few key men in that game as well, but they continued to fight on, and it was only within meters or millimeters of Adam Reynolds' boot when he kicked that attempted 40-20 that really could have changed the game, and it could have led to a different result. However, the Penrith Panthers get it done once again. 17th straight win. They now equal the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs record back in 2002 of 17 wins in a row. And look, I just love what they've done, the Penrith Panthers, all year. They've stuck to a certain game plan. They've bonded in the bubble relatively well. They haven't seemed to have many dramas, actually. They haven't seemed to have any concerns or problems in that club, in that organisation. And you can see how professional it's been from the beginning. But look, they've done well, the Panthers. They've gotten the 17th straight win. Now versus the Melbourne Storm in the grand final. And it's going to be the game of the year, barring any referee controversies. But it was those key men that I keep talking about during the year that just really stepped it up again. James Fisher-Harris, 18 runs, 197 metres, 80 post-contact metres, the tackle break, offload, and 36 tackles. In a massive effort, again, from James Fisher-Harris, earning himself an accolade, which we'll get to in a moment. And the man himself, Isaiah Yeo, really firming himself for a State of Origin berth and playing the best year of his entire career. 12 runs, 145 metres, 2 line breaks, a try assist, 3 tackle breaks, and 41 tackles. Were the 2 men, for me, that dominated. But that Isaiah Yeo play where obviously he stepped Mark Nichols, broke the line, and put in that beautiful ball for Dylan Edwards to score under the posts. Look, I thought that would have won the game before the Panthers, but as I said, the Rabbitohs, they fought as much as they could. They were fighting with men down, but unfortunately it just wasn't their night. And it's the 3rd year in a row that they've gone down in the preliminary final, which is tough to take in. Now, the standout for me for the Rabbitohs was Cameron Murray. I thought he dominated in all forms. 13 runs, 132 metres, a line break, 2 tackle breaks, an offload, and 38 tackles. And a performance from Cameron Murray. Now, with those 2 games being covered, as I said, we'll be seeing the Melbourne Storm take on the Penrith Panthers in this year's grand final. And we'll get to that in a moment in all the team changes that were made there. Now, not sure if you guys missed it this week, but the Dalian results came through, and the following won awards this year in the 2020 season. The Rookie of the Year was taken out by Harry Grant, who was on loan from Melbourne Storm and performed fantastic in his first year for the West Tigers. The Captain of the Year was Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, the New Zealand Warriors fullback, who, amongst all adversity and missing out on a lot of things with his family and being away for so long, led with absolute courage and was a leader on all fronts, and was something that I got to admire and watch, and obviously see through the way he played and his performances on the field and the way he carried himself off the field with all that drama. The Coach of the Year, Penrith Panthers coach Ivan Cleary, took out that gig. Obviously, it was pretty obvious to see why. I mean, Panthers coming out 17 straight wins, and elevating them from the bottom half of the 8 straight to the top of the ladder. And especially in their attack, they dominated in almost every area of attack this year, which is a credit to Trent Barrett and the coaching staff and Cameron Ciraldo and everyone else there. Definitely good to see that from the Penrith Panthers. And yeah, Ivan Cleary takes out the winner there. The Dalian winner of the year was Jack Wyden, the Canberra Raiders 5'8". It was a phenomenal finish to the end of those votes. Famously, he actually didn't play the last game when Canberra Raiders and like a few other teams rested a few stars. But he was the Dalian winner for the season 2020. Just with the performances he had, he scored many doubles across most of the games this year. When Raiders were on the bit of a back foot, he brought him out of that, and he just stepped up his performance. The top try scorer for the year was Alex Johnston. Now, remember, we touched on that in the round 20 review, him scoring 5 tries in that game against the Roosters where they won 60 points to 8. He took out the top try scorer for the season 2020. The top point scorer was Adam Reynolds. Now, obviously, it would have inflated him playing the finals, and as well with Johnston as well, scoring a few extra tries there. But yeah, Adam Reynolds, especially in the last 6 to 8 weeks, his goal kicking was just superb. It was phenomenal to watch him kick the way he's been doing it all year, and he definitely deserved the top point scorer of the year. Now, the headliner of the year was Project Apollo. Was when they announced that May 28th will be the time that they're going to get the game resumed under all the COVID guidelines. Now, the Spirit of the Game Award didn't get anyone else apart from the organisation of the New Zealand Warriors. Having to relocate from New Zealand to Australia, being Tamworth, to not see their family for more than 6 months, just to keep the game alive and the game running. I've got nothing but admiration and respect for that organisation and for what they've done, and they've taken out the Spirit of the Game Award for season 2020. The Try of the Year and the Tackle of the Year both happened in the same round, in round 15. The Try of the Year belongs to Katoni Staggs against the St. George Illawarra Dragons. Very entertaining game, but if you remember vividly, Katoni Staggs got that ball. He palmed off Ewan Aitken like he was a little toy, and he broke through. And the way he got through that line and he stepped the fullback, Matt Duffy, was phenomenal to watch. And when you see Katoni Staggs in full flight, he's very, very hard to stop because he's very dominant, very strong, and he's got that speed as well. And the Tackle of the Year, like I called it back in round 15, Josh Papali. Now, they were versing the Gold Coast Titans, and Jamal Fogarty went to make a quick tap from the 20-metre line, and he went through straight through the Canberra defence and looked like he would go on and score the try by all odds, but Josh Papali fought hard, kept that chase, and slid in with that ankle tap, and which ended up having the Titans concede an error there, which was a massive play in that game, and which took out the Tackle of the Year for season 2020. So congratulations to those guys that took out the results in the Dalian medals this week. In the Dalian Team of the Year, this was the first year that they've done a full 1-13 team. The fullback was Clint Gutherson. I thought he was instrumental for Parramatta. You got to give credit where credit is due. He was fantastic for them, had involvement in everything, and was their main guy in a season that could have been for the Parramatta Eels. The winger, David Norfoluma, the West Tigers winger, he was just outstanding. He finished the year with 17 tries. He made that many line breaks as well, and he led. I believe he was in the top 3 in the competition with tackle busts. Was always breaking tackles week in, week out, and he got that gong over on the wing. The other winger was Josh Adokar from Melbourne Storm. I don't need to say much about that. Every time that he would run away and score a try, he would just probably one of the fastest players this year. I think he clocked 37 kilometers per hour as he was running some length of the field tries this year. That was the fastest he got. But yeah, just another phenomenal talent, and one that I can't wait to see what happens with him in 2021, depending the club he chooses. The two centers, as we mentioned, Katoni Staggs, in what is probably the only highlight for the Brisbane Broncos this year, getting out the center of the year alongside Stephen Crichton from the Penrith Panthers. Both have had dominant seasons in their own right. Stephen Crichton scoring good 15, 16 tries this year, and obviously playing outside Jerome Lowe was a benefit in its own self, and he really took his game to another level this year, which was phenomenal to see. The 5'8", Jack Wyden, which was a Dalian winner as well. Don't need to say much about Jack Wyden. As I said, any time that his team got on the back foot, he took him out of that, would score some tries, would set up some beautiful plays. In the halfback, being Penrith halfback Nathan Cleary. Another big year from him. He's probably half the reason why the Penrith are gone to 17 straight and are in the grand final. His kicking game, his composure in big moments, and his goal kicking as well, was just some of the highlights from Nathan Cleary this year. And he takes out the halfback of the year. Now the hooker belongs to Melbourne Storm's hooker Cameron Smith. Again, I want to see him play on till next year. It doesn't look like he could stop anytime soon. Another phenomenal year. A lot of try assists from him, line break assists. Did a lot of work in defence as well, even though he was away for 2-3 weeks with that shoulder injury earlier on. The two props that took it out this year, Canberra Raiders forward Josh Papali, who took out the tackle of the year, sorry. He was instrumental, one of his best years by far. The way he played this year, he led by example at all fronts. He gained the most meters, I believe, this year, and had a phenomenal amount of post-contact meters as well. And another prop, James Fisher-Harris from the Penrith Panthers, who took his game again to another level. Was very hard to stop, and like I mentioned earlier, was playing big minutes. There was a couple of times where he got to about 230 to 250 meters in some games. But yeah, he was just an exceptional and a very influential player for the Penrith Panthers this year, leading from the front alongside James Tarmo. The two second rowers that took it out, still with the Penrith Panthers, Viliami Kikau, very dominant season from him, and a season that wasn't riddled by injuries, which was phenomenal to watch. Last year he did have a few injuries, but this year he was injury free, apart from those few suspensions. But it was one to watch. Viliami Kikau was very dominant on that left edge, which obviously had a lot of success this year with Jerome Luai himself, Kikau, Stephen Crichton, and Josh Mansell. Very good performance from Viliami Kikau this year. The other one, one of my personal favourites, Tohu Harris from the New Zealand Warriors. As I said, in the year of uncertainty, he really stepped up, Tohu Harris. Tohu Harris took his game to another level. He led by example week in, week out, and he was my second rower of the year, as I would have mentioned in one of my earlier podcasts. In the lock, again, the Penrith Panthers, Isaiah Yeo. Last year, he suffered a season-ending shoulder injury, had a few concussions as well, but this year he stayed healthy, stayed relatively fit. Didn't miss much game time this year, and he was just phenomenal. And credit to the Penrith Panthers there, as I said, for everyone in that organisation for elevating all these players. But yeah, that is your team of the year. So fullback, Clint Gutherson, the wingers, David Norfoluma and Josh Adokar, the centers, Katoni Staggs and Stephen Crichton. Your 5'8" is Jack Wyden, and your halfback, Nathan Cleary. Your second row locks, your second row is Tohu Harris, Viliami Kikau, and your lock is Isaiah Yeo. The props, Josh Papali, James Fisher-Harris, and the hooker, Cameron Smith. Now, thank you for joining me for that Daily M segment. Let's take it over to news around the NRL world, and a very eventful week this week in terms of all the NRL news. Asahi has extended its partnership with the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs to the end of 2024, which does see that partnership extend to over 35 years, which is good to see that there is still some bit of loyalty in rugby league. Now, Roosters halfback Kyle Flanagan has been told he wouldn't be signed to pass his contract, which is 2021. Trent Barrett and the Bulldogs have made some inquiries, and I believe he'll be Bulldogs bound once it hits November 1, when players can start negotiating their contracts. It looks like Kyle Flanagan could get an early release and join the Bulldogs and be able to help them get off the bottom of the ladder. Now, Gold Coast hooker Tana Boyd has extended his contract till 2022 with the Gold Coast Titans. had a breakout year this year under Justin Holbrook, and will look to continue to develop that. Jack Hetherington got a release from the Penrith Panthers and has signed a 2-year deal with the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs to the end of 2022, and will be a massive boost for the Bulldogs, seeing as though they have struggled to lead by example in terms of its forward pack. So he's going to be a phenomenal contributor to that forward pack. As long as Trent Barrett can keep him tamed and not have him suspended most of the year, he will be a player to watch for the Bulldogs next year. So I'm very happy with that signing. There's a group that are lobbying against the Parramatta Eels. They want to have Shane Flanagan, Paul Green, and Tim Sheens, one or the other, or if not all three, to support Brad Arthur, being the current head coach of the Parramatta Eels. This lobby group obviously want to see the Parramatta win the comp next year. If they don't win the comp next year, they want Brad Arthur gone. Even though he's got his contract extended to the end of 2022, this group are going to firmly go up against the Parramatta board and try to get a new coach in and change something up. It's the second year in a row that Brad Arthur has coached Parramatta to the finals in 2 straight games and lost. And with Brad Arthur being there for a very long time, about 7-8 years now, if Parramatta don't win the comp next year, they're going to be looking to get things changed and shaken up at the place. Now, the Roosters prop Pawasa Famawasili. Now, you guys know him as having him loaned over to the Warriors for a brief time this year. Will be looking to get released from the Roosters and will be signed by the St. George Illawarra Dragons on a 2-year contract. He does have 2 years left on his contract with the Roosters, but he'll be released from that, and he will head over to the Dragons as their first decent signing for the coach there, Anthony Griffin. Now, the Canberra Raiders have signed Caleb Akins for season 2021. Was made official just last week. Now, one of the NRL's good guys, Cameron King, has announced his retirement from the game at the young age of 29. He had signed with the Sharks in the beginning of the season and had torn his ACL in one of the trial games, which is very hard to watch. And he has now announced his retirement, and he will be looking to further his career outside of football. So we just want to wish you all the very best, Cameron King, in your future endeavours, and we thank you for the memories you've created at the 4 clubs that you were part of. Now, the Bevan French, who was a former Eels player, has been linked back to a return to the Parramatta Eels. But what they want to do is that Brad Arthur wants to bring him in as a fullback and have Clint Gutherson move to the centres. I've got a problem with this. Clint Gutherson just won the Dalian fullback of the year. This is probably one of the best years that Clint Gutherson has had at fullback. Not sure if you've been keeping tab with what's happening over in the Super League, but Bevan French has been playing 5'8". He played a bit of wing with the Wigan Warriors, but now has moved into the 5'8 role and has been killing it all year. Now, I don't suggest that he goes and plays 5'8", but to take the Dalian fullback of the year in Clint Gutherson to the centres to then have Bevan French move and play fullback, I don't like it. I do not like it. I don't see that lasting very long. I see Clint Gutherson going straight back to fullback and Bevan French going into the centres, but that's what the Eels are planning to do. Bevan French has mentioned that he hasn't signed another contract with Wigan, has rejected their contract extension and wants to move back to Australia, with Eels leading the charge there. Speaking of the Eels, their winger George Jennings, who was on loan to the Warriors for a good couple months this year, will be signing a 2-year deal with the Melbourne Storm to cover the losses of Suliasi Vunivalu and the potential release of Josh Adokar. Any player that goes over to the Melbourne Storm system will be phenomenal in their own right, and George Jennings wasn't extended over at Parramatta Eels. Now, the Broncos CEO, Paul White, has extended his contract till January 2021. Now, he was meant to be finishing up at the end of this month. However, what has happened is they are looking to sign over Dave Donaghy, who is the Melbourne Storm CEO, for 2022 onwards. So what he's done is he extended his contract to January 2021 so that once that time hits, they can start negotiating with the Melbourne Storm CEO. Now, John Cleary has been announced as the Bulldogs chairman, taking over Lynn Anderson last week, and they have introduced the introduction of 3 new board members in Jim Kutoyakakis. He was a current director of the Bulldogs board and has 20 years experience in the finance game. Andrew Gifford, who's also got over 30 years of experience in finance, and Peter McMahon, who is one of the leading real estate lawyers and who was also part of the Bulldogs board in 2011 through to 2018. Now, the Newcastle Knights have re-signed Connor Watson on a 1-year contract extension through to the end of 2021. Was towards the beginning of the year, he was looking at a 3-year contract extension, but after rupturing his Achilles, they have offered him a lifeline and given him a season to prove his worth. One of the biggest talks right now is Broncos fullback Jack Byrd, who's obviously had a very injury-riddled time at the Brisbane Broncos. From what I understand, they are looking to release him to the St. George Illawarra Dragons and have him there play 2021. Now, I know that from my understanding, the Dragons have offered Brisbane to pay $300,000 of Jack Bird's salary, which would mean that Brisbane will contribute $675,000. The Broncos have rejected that, and they are still in discussions as to what payment will be made on either side for Jack Bird to be released. Another one on the retired list, Ethan Lowe, has announced his retirement from the game. He injured his neck in round 10 due to a crusher tackle, and him having previous neck issues has decided to retire. It's very disappointing. Ethan Lowe was last year, as you may have known, pretty phenomenal for the Queensland Maroons and played an instrumental part in getting in that game, Game 3 last year. And he's obviously won the competition with North Queensland Cowboys in 2015. And he was at Cowboys for many years, only played 2 years at the Rabbitohs, and it's a sad retirement, this one. But Ethan Lowe, like Cameron Kim, we wish you all the best. We are sorry to see you go the way you did, and we hope that you can still contribute to the game of National Rugby League in any way possible. And the last bit of talk is that the Bulldogs have now firmed again to be favourites to signing Josh Addo-Carr from next year. Now, it'll be interesting to see what player they do offer up to the Melbourne Storm, seeing as though Melbourne do want compensation if Addo-Carr was to leave. But it looks like with Tigers being lost and not being offered anything till 2022, and Rabbitohs not having enough money in their salary cap, Bulldogs are now the firm favourites to sign Josh Addo-Carr. Now, we'll move over to the State of Origin talk, and not much to get through this week. But the big announcement was Mal Meninga, the former Queensland coach and the current Australia coach, has signed on as an assistant to Wayne Bennett. Just when you thought that Queensland were out of it just because of the players and the depth they have in the players, they've brought on Wayne Bennett as the head coach and now Mal Meninga as an assistant. I'm starting to get a little bit worried about State of Origin this year, let me tell you. And for New South Wales, Jack Wyden, Nick Kotrick from the Canberra Raiders, and Cody Walker, Damien Cook, and Cameron Murray from the South Sydney Rabbitohs were added to the Blue squad this week. Now, there are still about 7 odd positions left to fill, and those will be filled in next week once we determine the game between Penrith and Storm in the grand final. Now, moving over to that game, the Storm will be looking to be at 1-17 from the team that beat the Canberra Raiders last week. And for the Panthers, they have made some changes. So Brent Naden, who was benched last week and didn't get to play at all, will move into the starting centres. And Viliame Kikau will make his return into the starting side, which means Tyrone May will push back to the bench in jersey 14, and Kurt Capewell will move from the starting side over onto the bench as well, which means that the unlucky man to miss out is Spencer Leniu, who was named last week but pulled out due to a virus. Look, this is a game that it comes down to two of the best teams in the competition. Just watching the way that the Storm played last week has me backing them as firm favourites. I don't believe this will be a close game whatsoever. If Penrith can pull it off, it would be fantastic. I'm just thinking that with the experience that Craig Bellamy has and Cameron Smith, as I said, they've been in over the 10 years, they've been in 5 grand finals. So they've got that experience there as that squad. So I'm just thinking that Storm will pip them this week, and they will take out the 2020 grand final and will be the champions for this year. Now, guys, thank you so much for joining me this week on another episode of League Chat with the Stat. Now, I know what you're thinking. I did mention this was a grand final episode. However, do not fear. I will still be bringing out some more podcasts as the weeks go by. You got to remember that we have State of Origin coming up, which is the New South Wales versus the Queensland Maroons. New South Wales Blues against the Queensland Maroons. And we'll obviously be doing recaps for those teams for the next few weeks, as long as the Origin series goes on. And obviously, we'll have some more stuff in store for you after that. We'll leave that as a surprise for you guys. But we'll be having a lot of special guests coming in over the next little while as we continue to bring out some more podcasts for you guys. But I just want to say again, thank you so much for your support this year. Thank you for joining me this year. It's been a hell of a ride in my debut year. As I said, I'm back, and I'm back with a vengeance. I can't wait to continue to have this happening over the next 10 to 20 to 30 to 40 years. So, but look, I do appreciate your support for those that are local in Australia and for those over the world. Just wanted to say a massive thank you. Not something I would have expected, but your support is the reason why we keep going. But as I said, now you guys know that I've just jumped on Instagram as well under League Chat with the Stat. So you can now catch us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube under League Chat with the Stat. Make sure to continue to like, comment, share, subscribe, and share it to all your friends and family. And share it. And for those that are located international, share it to those that may be looking for a podcast on the National Rugby League. Send it through. Tag us as well. You can tag us on Facebook and, as I said, on Instagram. Now, we are also all over these podcasting streams as well, which I'll go through. Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Alexa, and you'll know where to find us there. So, as I said, for those that want to get in touch and reach out, leaguechatwiththestat@gmail.com, which will be now at the bottom of the screen there. leaguechatwiththestat@gmail.com will be the place you can reach me on. As I said, any feedback you want to put through, please send it through, and we'll go from there. Guys, as I said, thank you so much. Enjoy the grand final. We'll look to cover that next week. Enjoy it for what it is, and enjoy the closeout of season 2020. Have a good one, guys. Take care.